Imagine my surprise. Just imagine my surprise when I see the headline from The Athletic that's once again highlighting the fact that Pat McAfee is despised by the ESPN audience. Headline from The Athletic: survey shows declining support for Pat McAfee on College Game Day. Over the last 3 years, The Athletic has conducted a poll every year of ESPN's audience, and each year, the hatred for Pat McAfee seems to grow. Year 1, 42% of the audience hated Pat McAfee. Year 2, it was 48%. And last year, damn near half the audience at ESPN wants Pat McAfee to get off my TV. It's not hard to understand why. Like I told you guys 3 or so years ago when Pat McAfee announced that he was joining the worldwide leader in woke, Pat McAfee does not fit the network. And look, that's not an insult to Pat McAfee. Matter of fact, it's a good thing. It's a compliment. I consider Pat McAfee to be a normal dude. What normal man wants to fit in at the worldwide leader in woke? What normal man wants to be colleagues with Crying Ryan Clark? What former NFL player, and even though he was a punter, Pat McAfee still had an 8-year career in the National Football League. So what former NFL player wants to be colleagues with a pretend analyst like Mina Kimes? Why would Pat McAfee want to conform to a network that honored Will Thomas during Women's History Month? You guys remember Will, right? To be fair, Will is the dead name. Perhaps you remember Will Thomas by their chosen name, their identifier name, Leah. Me personally, I am not a fan of the Pat McAfee show. I aged out of the show's target demographic almost 20 years ago when I graduated from college. Now, that does not mean I don't like Pat McAfee, but his show just doesn't do it for me. Now, that being said, I do think Pat McAfee has been a good addition to College Game Day. He energizes a show that had kind of become stale over the last few years. The kicking challenge that he does every week, it's very entertaining. I thought that was a brilliant idea. And someone must like Pat McAfee on College Game Day because the 2025 season was the most watched in the history of the network. But KC, maybe people are watching College Game Day in spite of Pat McAfee. Maybe. Or maybe the half of the ESPN audience that identifies as woke, maybe the half of ESPN's audience that's proud to be proficient at spanking the wanker, maybe they don't like Pat McAfee because he refuses to embrace the woke wiener. Ironically enough, it's not just the woke audience at ESPN that doesn't like Pat McAfee. Over the years, there have been whispers, there have been rumors that some of his colleagues at the worldwide leader in woke don't like him either. There have been rumors of jealousy, resentment, and yesterday morning, Pat McAfee added fuel to that flaming ass fire by exposing his colleagues at ESPN and the rest of mainstream sports media. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel's in the description below. Earlier today on the second channel, we talked about the face of disgrace at ESPN, Crying Ryan Clark. Throughout his NFL career, Ryan Clark has desperately tried to convince people to hate Josh Allen. I explain why this agenda from Crying Ryan is 100% based in the fact that Josh Allen is the white man. So if you haven't already, click the link in the description or the pinned comment below. Subscribe to the second channel. Sunday afternoon, after their heartbreaking loss to the Bills, Jags head coach Liam Coen was taking questions at his post-game press conference. A lady named Lynn Jones, who was completely unknown at the time and off camera when she spoke to Liam Coen, instead of asking the typical doofus questions that you hear from mainstream sports media at these press conferences. Hey, coach, tough loss today. How do you deal with this level of disappointment? I wake up tomorrow morning, I realize my wiener is in my hand and I'm a grown man, and I start finding ways to win next season. That's how these press conferences usually are. Mundane question, even more mundane answer. But Lynn Jones, she decided to be different. Instead of asking a meaningless question, she praised Liam Coen for a great season in Jacksonville. Watch it for yourself.
Congratulations on your success, young man.
Thank you.
You hold your head up, all right? You guys have had a most magnificent season.
Thank you.
And you did a great job out there today.
Appreciate
so you
it.
just hold your head up, okay? Much continued success to you and the entire team.
For some reason, the paid propagandists in the mainstream media were highly offended by this. For some reason, they viewed this as an egregious sin. Who in the Rudy Poo is this lady? She's no journalist. How dare she compliment a head coach? How dare she publicly admit her bias? Everyone in the damn media is biased. There is no such thing as journalism in the year of our Lord 2026. Case in point, once the media found out that Lynn Jones was a black woman, all of a sudden, they were defending her instead of criticizing her. Unfortunately, Lynn Jones used the previous criticism as an opportunity to be a victim of mythical racism, but the moment that she had with Liam Coen on Sunday afternoon, it was a nice moment. Maybe it was quote-unquote unprofessional, but there is no professionalism in sports media or mainstream media. Maybe Lynn Jones was being biased, but everyone in the media is biased. Me personally, I didn't understand what the big deal was, even though she is now claiming to be the victim of mythical racism, which is not being different. I respected the fact that Lynn Jones did something different in that press conference. Like I said, the vast majority of these press conferences are mundane. They are painfully boring. The doofus interviews that sideline reporters conduct coming out of halftime, they're a complete waste of time. Hey, coach, you got your ass kicked in the first half. How are you going to soothe your bruised caboose? Maybe he'll ask to borrow your preparation H and give you back a stinky tube. The point is, at least Lynn Jones did something different. It was a nice moment. It was a pleasant exchange between a head coach and someone in the local media. Pat McAfee felt the same way. Yesterday morning, Pat McAfee was praising Lynn Jones, but while praising the future victim of mythical racism, Pat McAfee also exposed the parasites in sports media. Watch it for yourself.
Most of the people that have been covering sports for a long time, not most, a percentage larger than you would hope, much larger than you would hope, that chose to do sports journalism. I think they don't like sports. I think these people hate sports. I think they're political journalists by nature who preyed on sports as an easier path to be able to get into the biz. I don't think they like sports. I think they cover sports. I don't think they like sports.
Pat McAfee is right. We used to have people at ESPN who loved covering sports. Dan Patrick, Colin Cowherd, Stuart Scott. Are there some people today at ESPN who enjoy covering sports? Yeah. But there are far too many who would rather be political. This is one of the many reasons that Pat McAfee is hated by his colleagues at ESPN. Pat McAfee is not afraid to tell the truth. He's not afraid to call out the woke welfare collectors in the media. And to make matters worse, Pat McAfee never gets punished for his brutal honesty. There are two people at ESPN that can do or say whatever the hell they want. Pat McAfee, Stephen A. Smith. And you can make the case that Pat McAfee has more autonomy than Stephen A. Because Pat McAfee was a star before he signed with ESPN, and when he eventually leaves, Pat McAfee will still be a star. He didn't name names, and I'm not going to speculate as to who he was talking about, but there are people at ESPN who didn't start their careers in sports, or they are wanting to distance themselves from sports. Mina Kimes started her career as a business journalist at Forbes. Sarah Spain launched her career in sports media on a damn dating app. She auctioned herself off as a date to the Super Bowl. An auction that ultimately ended at $0. You guys remember Mike Freeman, right? The Star Trek version, the race reporter at USA Today. Mike Freeman claims to be a sports columnist, but he looks for racism in sports, and when he can't find any, Mike Freeman just makes shit up. Over the last couple of years, Stephen A. Smith, he has branched out. He is no longer focused on sports, and he's wanting to focus more on politics. Compared to 20 or 30 years ago, hell, even compared to 10, 15 years ago, sports media today is the drizzling shits. One of the points that Pat McAfee was trying to make, sports used to be something that united us. Whether you were Republican or Democrat, Christian or Buddhist, white or black, you might disagree with someone in every way imaginable. But on Sunday afternoon, if you're both fans of the New Orleans Saints, for 3 hours, all those differences that you have don't matter. For 3 hours, you're on the same side. Today, sports media is divisive. At every available opportunity, sports media is used to divide us. Hell, just last week, Mina Kimes accused people who disagree with her of not being real. If you think that ICE agent was defending himself, you're not a real person. You must be pretend. And I should know. I'm Mina Kimes. I'm a pretend analyst. Whether you love him or hate him, Pat McAfee is right. Sports media ain't what it used to be. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.